Meet the new boss, just like the old boss. Now this may look very similar to the old car, but there have been a few updates to it which basically coincide with the release of the new Elise Sprint. And that car is supposed to be a celebration of all things light and of course Lotus. Now we know that there is a new Elise on the way in 2020, which is of course hopefully going to be compliant with all worldwide crash regulations and will be the reintroduction of the Elise to the United States. However, in the meantime, those of us in the rest of the world have this to enjoy. This is the newly facelifted Elise Sport 220, presented here in a colour Lotus simply call Electric Light Blue, and I call suspiciously like Estoril Blue. Now this really is, to my mind, the sweet spot of the Elise range. The entry-level 1.6 litre 134 horsepower car isn't really a very big seller, and you can see why. Basically another £6,000–7,000 gets you a car with 60% more power. Basically this is 220 horsepower through a larger engine, 1.8 litres, and a lovely supercharger, and who doesn't love a little bit of boost? Now this car has been kindly supplied to us for the day by Bell & Colville, and they're using it effectively as a showcase for the current Elise catalogue. So not to put too fine a point on it, but someone has gone to town with the options list on this car. There's a few exterior changes which will help you easily identify one of these newer cars. The most obvious is the heavily revised front air intakes down here. They are much larger and chunkier than the old car, is the older style with much thinner side intakes on it. There is a slightly differently profiled cover here, although it is reasonably difficult to tell them apart. At the back there's a big difference again in terms of this cover here, again a different shape, and on the rear the Lotus badging has now been replaced with stickers, very GT3 RS, and the traditional pair of rear red lights has now been replaced by a more Evora style, one large, one small. Personally, I quite like the older setup. The biggest change, however, really is to be found on the inside. The interior hasn't really changed that dramatically from any Elise built in the last sort of 10 years. There is, however, one significant change, and that really is the key feature of this latest update. And that's the introduction of this gear shifter, which has been developed from the Evora 400 and the XE Sport 350. It's a beautifully made, exquisite piece of art. I know a few people worry about whether you're going to drop a Werther's original in there, but otherwise this is such a nice thing to have in a car, and it's a real celebration of the mechanical motor car. The other significant change in the interior is an upgraded dash which reflects the style used in the current Evora and XE's range. Under here it's basically business as usual. Nothing is really radically different to the old Sport 220. That is to say, it's a 1.8 litre supercharged Toyota engine producing around 220 PS and 184 pound-foot of torque. One thing that has changed is Lotus, for reasons known only to them, have decided to delete all of the covers from the engine, so it's not the prettiest looking engine bay, is it? So we're on the road, and this is my first ever drive of an Elise, which is not my own. So it is my first drive of a Series 3 car and my first drive of a supercharged Elise. Just from the Bell & Colville car park, a couple of things strike me to begin with. First off, at low speeds, the steering feels even heavier than my own car. Maybe that's just the fact that over the last couple of days I've been driving my 5 Series, which has got very sort of woolly steering in comparison to an Elise. Also, this car is considerably quieter than my own Elise. Now, part of that will be due to the fact that this has a standard exhaust, and part of it will be due to the fact that this is actually, as Elises go, very luxuriously appointed. You have a full carpeted interior in here with plenty of leather and things, and the luxury touring double-lined soft roof. And these all combine to make something of a difference. It's never going to be a Bentley bother or anything even remotely approaching that, but it certainly feels like a step up in quality compared to a basic no-frill Series 2. A lot of the switchgear is familiar, notably the stalks on the column here. The steering wheel is different to my car, although a similar size. It's pleasingly small. Ride is not too bad actually. I'm pretty sure it feels a little bit better damped than my own car. It certainly sounds over these potholes a lot less crashy. Now my car does have nitrons on it, and again that may be contributing to it. Also, the sort of increased NVH performance of this car is certainly going to help. Another thing which is different is that just in the car park, trying to move around and occasionally just playing with the throttle, is the fact that the car certainly feels reluctant to rev than mine, and that is of course because this is using a totally different engine to mine being the old Toyota 2ZZ that revs to around 8,500 RPM. And I love that engine to pieces, but this is a very, very different experience, and the idea is that by being supercharged it's going to give you a much bigger hit of mid-range torque, which it does. It's certainly not earth-shattering performance, but if I tried that overtake there, which is just a couple of cyclists at about 3,000 RPM, my car would have nothing to give. If you need to get past someone quickly, you need to change down, you need to get the car into that band where the VVTLI system kicks in, and you can then shoot off. Of course, that can be a little bit of effort. So for making swift progress along country roads, this of course is going to be considerably quicker. Now there's a sport mode button in this car, and let's see if that feels any different. Throttle response doesn't feel massively different. The car won't really be doing all that much. Sport mode will be altering the traction control system, much like in the Evora. Now this car doesn't have the super trick race mode, it simply has Tour, Sport and traction control off. Now, to be honest, I never really had a problem with Gearshift in the Elise beforehand. I know that the Exige has benefited greatly from this upgraded shifter, but its presence in here is still appreciated. It's lovely, it's short, it's direct, it feels so, so nice. Lotus, for a company that in the past have really taken a battering for the quality of their gear shifts, with this one, they have knocked it out of the park. And if you are looking for a car which is a driving experience, it's so, so nice. And you know, these pleasures are becoming harder and harder to find in new cars. For a car which is now 21, it's probably important to mention some of the things which haven't changed. And that is, certainly in the context of my Series 2 car, the beautiful view out the front of these two haunches over the front wheels, the stunning steering feel, which is just perfectly weighted when you're on the move. I think this is maybe a touch heavier than my car when you're on the move still, but very, very easy to drive. Anyone could drive one of these on the move. You get all the feedback you could possibly want. I mean, you can feel every single little ripple of the road through this wheel, but it's not intrusive, it's not disturbing, it simply communicates to you, it talks to you, it doesn't shout, and it's just so completely alive. It's really what I know the Elise is famous for, and this is a reputation that is very, very well deserved. Of course, the car is still basically the same size as it always was as well, so much like the Caterham I drove recently, when you're trying to hustle the car around little British B roads, it's perfectly sized. So really, this car is the Elise refined. It has not been blunted at all. It may be slightly rounded, but it can still kick. And while that 220 horsepower headline figure may not seem like it would result in a massive improvement over the old 190 horsepower engine from my 111R, The reality is that that extra mid-range shove results in a car which, in the real world, is going to be considerably faster. It also quite impresses me because I suspected that this car, with the engine having more humble origins, may be quite reluctant to rev out, but actually it pulls very strongly right up to the red line. This has shift lights in it and it definitely needs them. The supercharger is actually very unintrusive. In fact, you can hear it a lot more in the Evora than you can in this car. So it's been very, very well engineered and put together. We're driving around on very rough and poor roads today, and actually this car's been very, very pleasant. It's very, very nice. They've moved the Elise along. I know this car is eventually coming to the end of its life, and in about 3 years or so it's going to be completely replaced, but if this is as good as this car ever gets, not really a bad thing. She may be 21, but she feels brand new. So really, this is a superb car. It is exactly what you'd really want from the Elise. It's got all of the things that you like, a few extra niceties. It's just about livable. It's a bit more comfortable. It's a bit more refined than they used to be. And the great thing is they haven't taken away anything in achieving that. What I really miss from my car is that top-end surge and rush, but in my opinion it's a pretty fair exchange to have this extra heaping of torque. But, and it is a big but, and you knew this was coming, this all comes at a price. Now, the entry-level price of a Sport 220 is £39,300. And that includes VAT, but that doesn't include our on-the-road costs. This car, though, you're sitting down, £51,530 plus on-the-road costs. How did they get there? Let me talk you through it. Okay, on the inside they have the leather trim pack, which is the seats and door panels in black with contrast stitching. That is £1,500. The full carpet on the interior is £350. Floor mats are £80. They didn't go silly and have the steering wheel trimmed in Alcantara for £300, and frankly I think that's the right decision. I'm not a big fan of Alcantara. You can of course have the interior done in Alcantara. It's the same price as the leather. Now, on the outside you have this not Estoril blue for £750. You have red calipers for £350. You also have, on comfort and communication, you have the air conditioning at £1,250. You have the stereo plus speakers, £400. It's not a particularly amazing stereo. It does come with a remote though, so I guess that's where most of the £400 goes. The sound insulation at £350, and well worth it, I would say, because this is a noticeably more refined car than the old one. Cruise control is £100. You then have the lightweight forged alloy wheels at £1,200. They are a very, very sexy option. These are in silver. You can also have them in gloss black. This car then has a carbon fibre front access panel at £900. You have the carbon fibre rollover hoop here. That is £1,000. You have the carbon fibre tailgate here at £1,600. You have the carbon fibre seats and sill cover. They are £1,200 each. Now, the sills have been changed on this car. They are taken from the XE Sport 380. They are slightly lower, and with the carbon fibre top, you do slip into the car noticeably easier than the old one because they are not very grippy. I'd be a bit worried though if you had someone with some high heels getting in and out of here. They could damage it quite easily. So I would definitely go for this option, but I'd maybe put a bit of paint protection film on top of it. So there you go, a £51,000 Elise, and it's not even a cup. It's a very interesting thing to be presented with, as I so recently did a video talking about whether the Elise is overpriced. You're going to have to be dedicated to buy a car like this, and the reality is that I don't think very many people are going to specify a car like this to this level, but it's a great demonstration of what you can do. And the one thing I have to say is that the quality of the carbon fibre on this, like on the Exige, like on the Sport 410, is absolutely sensational. They have this beautiful high quality weave everything is so nicely put together. So I want to say thank you again to Jamie and Bell and Colville for letting me borrow the car for the day. I've really liked it. In reality, if you're going to buy an Elise, I'd be very tempted by one of these. I am also really extremely unnaturally tempted by this thing over here. A situation that I encountered at Stratton recently where if I didn't need a stereo in a car, I mean, it's just gorgeous, isn't it? Somebody keep me away from here. Oh, you're still here. Well, as I have your attention, I've been told that around 84% of the people watching my videos haven't subscribed yet. Is that you? If you think you want to subscribe, click this button here, or the one somewhere down here that says subscribe. Or if you're still on the fence and want to watch some more of my content, you'll find suggestions for videos here, here, and here. What are you waiting for? Go on, keep watching.